Hi there, thanks for joining us today for day 11 of Maker Forte's Inktoberfest. It's Michelle here from Made by Michi, and today we're going to be playing with some acrylic paint and kaleidoscope powders, as well as a few stencils and a stamp set. So now for the first technique today, we are going to be doing a little bit of painting with our kaleidoscope powders and acrylic paint. So I grabbed the large leaf image from the Falling For You stamp set, one of the Manila tags, and the Color Hive Clear Embossing ink pad from Maker Forte. I prepped the Manila tag with a little bit of anti-static powder because we are going to be doing some heat embossing. I just want to try and minimize as much as possible having little stray bits of the black embossing powder all over the tag. And I stamp out the leaf image twice using the Color Hive Clear Embossing ink pad, and I heat emboss that off camera using just some plain old black embossing powder. So now, once that was all done, for both of these images, both of the leaf images, I'm going to be using a combination of 3 different colors for each one. For the first one, we are going to be using Outrageous, Roller Skates, and Aurora. Now, these 3 are they make a beautiful, beautiful mixture. And they give like an ombre effect to them once they're all done, which is really, really nice. So I start with a plastic sleeve, one that you would normally just keep your stamps and your dies in. I'm using this just because it'll make easy cleanup with the paint and the acrylic powders. I add a small little amount of the acrylic paint onto it, maybe about the size of my thumbnail. I add about half a pipette of clean, clear water, and I just start mixing it up with my paintbrush. Now, it does look gray on camera, but it is actually just a plain old white acrylic powder that I'm using. You can use any color that you want of acrylic paint. But just remember that if you're using a color paint, it will just change slightly the finished product of the Kaleidoscope powder mixed together. So I added about half a scoop of the Outrageous Kaleidoscope powder to it and mixed it all up there. And I divided my leaf into thirds because I'm using 3 different colors to paint. So the first one I went in with was the Outrageous. Now, as long as your paint mixture and paint and Kaleidoscope powder mixture has a high ratio of water in it, it will resist when you go in and paint it, it will resist the embossed lines within the image, which is really, really great. That way you don't have to worry about going back in and cleaning up any of the paint that dried on top of the embossed lines. So yeah, you can just see it kind of resisting the embossed lines in the middle there as I paint it, trying to stay in the lines as much as I possibly can. And so then for the third color, I go in with about the same amount of the Aurora. Now, I'm not mixing up a brand new color every time I add each powder. I'm not using a brand new little bit of acrylic paint. I'm just mixing all 3 together, but still keeping them a little bit separate. This way, it kind of keeps them in the same color family. It gives it a beautiful ombre look when it's finished. Really, really pretty this is. So I just go and finish the last third of the leaf, and there you go. I love the way this looks. So now, instead of wasting all of this ink, we're going to be doing some ink smooshing now. So I just take a paper towel, just kind of dab away a little bit of the paint because there was quite a bit left on there. Just kind of spray a little bit more water onto it and just take a piece of watercolor paper and smoosh it into the acrylic paint. Really fun to do, and you can do ink smooshing them with more than just your ink pads. I guess you would call it kind of paint smooshing. Really fun to do, and you get a really cool effect with that. Some really fun backgrounds. So for the second leaf, we are going to be I use a mixture of Pluto, Yellowstone, and Hubble Kaleidoscope powders. So I just add about the same amount of the paint onto the plastic sleeve, add a little bit of water, about half a pipette of water, and just start mixing it up. And I add the exact same amount of powders to it as I did for my first one. So the first, I'm going in with the Pluto Kaleidoscope powder. The next, like I said, will be the Yellowstone, and then the third color that we are using is Hubble. Now this is kind of more like an autumny color palette, but these colors look really, really nice together as well. So I just go in with the Pluto, mix it all up in there with my paintbrush and the acrylic paint, and just go in and start painting my leaf. Again, I separate the leaf into thirds, so I will have each color on it. And again, because there is a higher ratio of water in the paint mixture, it does resist the embossed lines within the leaf image. which again is really, really wonderful that it does. You don't have to worry about going back and cleaning it all up there. So then I add about half a scoop of my Yellowstone to the already mixed up Yellowstone, and these two colors mixed together give it kind of like a duck egg blue color, which is really nice. I love a good duck egg blue. And then once I am done painting the second third of the leaf, I go in with the hubble. And I just add the same amount of hubble as I did with the first two colors. And I just add that to the pre-mixed already. Now you can experiment, you can mix any colors around that you want, have fun, play around with this technique. It is really fun to do, and find some new beautiful color combinations. You'll never know unless you try it. So once that is all done, I did the same thing. I did some ink smooshing off camera with the rest of the paint that was left on that color sleeve. And those are the finished dried products. I love the way they turned out. So now for the next one, we are going to be doing a little bit of stenciling with this really, really fun Hats and Bats stencil. And we're going to be using the Lime Wired Kaleidoscope powder. Now, because the Lime Wired is a glow-in-the-dark powder, I thought it would be fun as well to do this on a piece of black cardstock. So I grabbed the tag, black cardstock, stuck my stencil down to them. Now, because acrylic paint, and when mixed with the water, it is much more fluid than an ink or embossing paste would be. You want to make sure that you spray the back of your stencils with a temporary adhesive, just to minimize and try and cut back on any possibility of the acrylic paint and water mixture seeping underneath the stencil. So you want to get your stencils stuck down to your paper really good, just temporarily. You don't want to use a permanent one because then your stencil will not come off. So I sprayed the stencils really, really good on the back with a temporary adhesive, stuck them down, and added in my Kaleidoscope powder to my acrylic paint and water mixture. So now, even though we are adding the Kaleidoscope powder, the Lime Wired, to a paint and water mixture, it does still retain its glow-in-the-dark properties, which is really, really fun. So once I have that all mixed up really good, I go in with a silicone spatula and I just pick up the paint and the Kaleidoscope powder and I just spread that all over the stencil, making sure that I get really nice coverage in the images of the stencil, but removing as much as I can from the top of the stencil, if that makes sense. And you do want to make sure that once you are done with the stencils, that you go and clean them off as quickly as possible so the paint does not dry on your stencil. And I'm just using a paper towel as well underneath them, just for much easier cleanup so I don't have paint all over my work surface. So once it's done, I peel it all off and there you go. Really, really cool, super fun, and I absolutely love this glow in the dark. Love it. So for the third one, we are going to be doing some more stenciling, but with the paint mixture a little bit drier consistency. So we will just apply it a little bit different than the first one. So we are going to be using this absolutely beautiful Dahlia Bloom Slimline stencil. Absolutely gorgeous it is, love it. And we are going to be actually mixing two different colors together right from the beginning. So we are using Pluto and Black Hole, and we are I add some of the paint directly to my work surface this time. I add half a scoop of the Pluto, half a scoop of the Black Hole, so an even amount of each, and I mix them together with a paintbrush. I don't add any water to it to begin with because I want this to be a drier consistency. But I do add just a tiny bit more water to it because I want just a little bit more fluid because it started to dry a little quicker on my work surface. So I added just a tiny bit more water, as well as I added a little bit more of the Pluto just to have a little bit more blue. But these two colors together give a really, really nice kind of like a smoky blue, denim blue kind of color. Really, really pretty. So to apply this to my stencil, I grab a wide flat brush and I just start brushing it on my stencil. And so I do a combination of brushing it on and pouncing it onto the stencil to make sure I get in all of the little lines and all the little nooks on the stencil. So I just keep going all the way down to the bottom Just brushing it on, pouncing it on, make sure I get good coverage. Now, because this isn't as fluid as the previous stencil, I don't have to worry about scraping any off the top of the stencil. But yeah, just brushing it on, pouncing it on, making sure I get really good coverage. And once I was happy with how it looked, I just removed my stencil from the tag, and that was it. I set it aside to dry, which only took maybe 10-15 minutes, not very long at all, and that was it. I really hope you've enjoyed all of these techniques today and will give it a try. Thanks for joining us and have a great day. Bye.